G'day guys, welcome back to True Eagle. Just a bit of an update on our list. We have parted ways with Luke Edwards, who has been battling a concussion injury or a series of concussion injuries that have, undoubtedly resulted in some symptoms, some ongoing symptoms. And unfortunately, Luke Edwards has decided to step away from the AFL after working with the club to map his future. So essentially, he has been delisted, which is unfortunate. Now, just on the one hand, I do expect that Luke Edwards may not have gotten another contract out West Coast regardless from a purely footballing decision. Nonetheless, with the ongoing concussion symptoms I presume that he's been experiencing, the way in which West Coast parted ways with Luke Edwards was always going to be very, very important. And I just want to say I can't help but be concerned for Luke. I really hope everything is okay. It's such an unfortunate part of our game now that is becoming increasingly common. And I presume it's just becoming increasingly common because of awareness and the way that we look for concussion injuries. I'm sure they've always happened in our game, and it's really unfortunate. So best wishes to Luke. Naturally, West Coast has a duty of care here, and in the background, we've potentially got a lawsuit with Brad Shepherd, and of course remember what happened with Daniel Venables. So the way West Coast handled this is really important. And there's no specifics about how they're going to support him. But at the end of the day, we have to remember this is a workplace injury. And the idea that a footballer or anyone in the workforce who goes to work and gets an injury that could potentially affect them past the duration of the career is really unfortunate. And of course, like any job, there is some degree of risk. There's always going to be some degree of risk as a footballer that you're going to sustain an injury. But we just need to remember that Luke Edwards, sustained these injuries while playing for our football club. And I really just hope he's okay and that this doesn't present as an ongoing problem for him for too long. How the club is able to support him, I'm not sure. Perhaps there could be some sort of paid work. Kind of depends on his capacity as well. I've literally no idea what sort of symptoms he's experiencing. But we have seen the last of Luke Edwards as a player in sad circumstances. So all the best, Luke. Thank you for the service. I've always kind of been fond of Luke Edwards, to be honest, even though I sort of saw this coming and probably wouldn't have expected him to get a contract anyway. He was a player I was fond of, and we all have happy memories, I think, of that game against Richmond where JK kicked the winning goal right at the end and we came back from 4 goals down. That was just one of the best football games I've been to that wasn't finals related, and Luke Edwards had an absolute blinder that night. It didn't really work out from a footballing sense, but nonetheless, best of luck for him in the future. And his brother Jackson as well, who used to be on Adelaide's list, has a pretty cool YouTube channel. But naturally, getting this back to football, that has finalized our 11 changes to our list. So I suppose the next part of this video will be exploring what that means, what are our options. I've made plenty of content in this space already, but we can just summarize where we're at and go over some options to fill the list spots that we have. So as I currently understand it, we now have 7 list spots available. 6 of those are on the main list, and there is 1 rookie list spot as well. As we know, we currently hold picks 12, 26, and 73 in this year's draft. So 3 draft picks there does not go into 6 spots on the main list. So again, I won't repeat myself. I've come up with ideas for this in previous videos, but there's a couple of different options we can look at into filling out those spots now that we have some clarity about how many spots we have. I think as a minimum, we want to take at least 4 selections in this year's draft, bearing in mind that 12 and 26 are the live ones, and 73 may or may not be used on Malachi Champion. I suspect that is the current plan. Bear in mind, 73 doesn't hold a lot of points value at the moment. It really does depend where exactly a bid for Malachi comes. But also bear in mind, as the draft happens and picks get absorbed into bids, that means that 73 will improve and therefore hold more points value in real time. So hopefully, we'll just assume for now 73 is hopefully enough for Malachi, and I'd love another selection in the top 40. So one option that I've come up with before is trading one of our future second selections into the top 40 of this year's draft, ideally Hawthorn's, or not our future second, although like I've said, it'll always be a little bit expensive to trade into the present, considering the strength of this year's draft as well. So a future second right now from Hawthorn is probably valued, I think, at like 30-ish. And if that becomes a top 40 selection in this year's draft, I would say that's a reasonable result. And maybe that's the selection where we draft a key back. In the top 30 of this year's draft, there's not a whole heap of key backs that would be a good fit at 26, but perhaps if we have a late 30s selection, Charlie Nichols is one name I've seen linked to us in a number of places as a key position player from South Australia. Someone mentioned in the comments there's a connection to Dwayne Massey there, who is South Australian, and he's our head recruiter. So I think that's very much on the cards. So I'm not sure exactly how we'll get that done, but I think that would be a pretty handy result. So that would leave us with 4 draft picks and still 2 spots to fill through delisted free agency or otherwise. Off the top of my dome right now, like, how do I want the draft to go? I'd be happy to see Xavier Lindsay as our first selection. He's quietly become my favorite. There's Hamish Davis maybe at our second selection. I think on value, a couple of outside players, particularly Davis. with his running capacity really adds something we don't have. And then perhaps someone like a Nichols is our third selection, Malachi number 4. So then what do we do with the delisted free agents? I've done a whole video speculating on this, and I do think a midfielder would be ideal, someone like a Jack Carroll. So hopefully we are successful in getting a little bit of midfield depth at worst, and you don't want to recruit specifically for our Waffle team, but I do really have grave concerns about the way that team's going to shape up next year. I think it will be the weakest Eagles team I've seen, excluding, when it was injury ravaged. But Jack Carroll coming in potentially, and then we have to probably look at a mature key position defender. So it's all well and good to, draft a key defender, and I definitely think we need to do that. But replacing Tom Barras with a mature player, I think that is also worth considering. So then you consider guys like Ethan Phillips, grainger-barras, as I suggested, or Tom Cleary as a train-on. So to clarify that point, we have the opportunity now on November 1st, which will be the date when you watch this video, to sign delisted free agents directly onto our list, but we don't necessarily have to fill up all those spots. We can leave a spot or two open for train-ons next year, and what that means is any player that didn't get drafted at all in the rookie draft or in the delisted free agency process, they can train with us in the preseason and we can sign them on as a train-on player. And I wouldn't be surprised if we go down that route for either Denver grainger-barras or Tom Cleary. Now, as a side note, do we try and get 5 selections in this year's draft? I'm iffy on this because I think that would involve splitting what is currently pick 12. So let's accept that, future 2 for Hawthorn becomes a top 43 selection or whatever it is, as long as we get the player we want. Let's say we've already got our 4 selections. I think the only other realistic way to get another selection on top of that would be looking to trade 12 with a club like Sydney, who apparently is interested in a trade of this nature. They want to move up. 12 for 19 and 22. I personally don't like the idea of entering the draft at 19. I think 12 is still in a good sweet spot where we could pick up a player of the caliber of maybe not a Bo Allen at this stage, but Travalia maybe, and certainly Xavier Lindsay I expect to be available. So moving back as much as 7 spaces in this year's draft, I do personally, subjectively think that puts us in a further back group in terms of talent. So I don't like that. Then you could suggest maybe we trade a future first into this year's draft. Well, perhaps we just hold those picks for next year if possible. I'm willing to trade a future second, but 2 first-round picks would help us in a bid for Chad Warner, and I would still like to see us explore that. As I said pretty much in just about every video, I do think that's the right move for us as long as we don't overpay. It's a whole different kettle of fish. But holding 2 first-round picks next year, I think we hold on to those and potentially just go for the 4 selections in this year's draft, a Jack Carroll as a delisted free agent if we are successful in getting him, because apparently the Giants are interested in him as well. And then look to either through train-on or whatever, or rookie list, we could sign a key position defender. My preference there is probably Ethan Phillips. Ethan Phillips is a player that I sort of accidentally left out of the delisted free agency video that I made, but I included him in the pinned comments. I haven't seen a meaningful link to him at all. However, he probably is the best key position defender on the market, considering he is a pretty well-performed VFL player. So in my mind, I'd probably rather a Phillips than a grainger-barras at this point. And he has longer left in his career, being far younger than Tom Cleary. If we did, get aggressive and trade a future first or whatever into this year's draft, and we took 5 draft picks, we could still sign 1 delisted free agent in Jack Carroll. Well, then we'd still have the option of rookie listing Ethan Phillips, Denver grainger-barras, or even Tom Cleary, dare I say. That is still an option through the rookie draft, where we just wouldn't have our rookie draft selection. We only have 1 pick. It'll be pick 3 in the rookie drafts, and we could allocate that to a mature age key position defender. So there's some options there. So I guess those are my thoughts. I'd say let's go for the 4 picks, get a mature midfield option in Jack Carroll, and ideally go for Ethan Phillips and grainger-barras or Cleary as fallbacks. I would live with it. At the end of the day, there's a good chance none of them amount to anything, but Ethan Phillips in my mind is the best prospect there. So yeah, that is just a snapshot of where we're at. I haven't heard anything, meaningful since the last time I made videos around this about our links to Jack Carroll or grainger-barras or Tom Cleary. I think that will all play out over time. It may be that by the time this video comes out, we've seen an article or a tweet from Ryan Daniels saying that there is an update in this space. I will do my best to stay dedicated with this channel, guys. The elephant in the room is I'm moving back to Perth in a month from now, and the process of me kind of withdrawing from YouTube a little bit mentally to focus on the future has already begun. I have no idea if that's obvious, but I'm getting less time to look at comments. I'm getting less time to prepare videos, and I'm trying not to get stressed about the future. It's all good. It's all good. I've just been on the phone home a lot lately, like ET, just trying to make some moves about my future and set up a future where I can continue to make content on both my channels going forward. Things will look different, no doubt. But when the time is right, I'll reveal a little bit more about that. But yeah, I just appreciate everyone investing in this channel. Hopefully you can stay patient with me. Obviously, I'm going to cover the draft and all the big bits, but prior to this, I've been going daily on this channel. I just don't know how much I can keep up with that. I've also made a bit of a commitment to try and make, daily videos on the True Footy YouTube channel, and I'm doing like 5 or 6 minute videos on each individual draft prospect, and I'm hoping to be daily up until the day of the draft. So if you're unaware, I do that channel. I'll actually leave a link to it in the top right corner of this video. It's got a playlist. I started with Travalia, Allen, and Lindsay because those are my 3 favorites for our pick, but I'm going to continue to keep doing a lot of the other top prospects there. So hopefully you get something out of those, and let me know in the comments what you think. I will still be able to read, but the allocated time I have to respond to comments and take things on board, it's just shriveled up a lot in the last few days. But this is just a moment in time, and we'll be back. I'm still looking forward to the draft. Anyway, guys, look forward to your comments. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.